Good morning and welcome to World News here on TVP World. I'm your host, Diana Skaya. Poles across the country today are marking All Saints' Day, a solemn time of remembrance when families visit cemeteries to honor their loved ones. The November 1st holiday transforms graveyards into seas of candlelight glowing through the autumn night.
Every year on All Saints' Day, Wszystkich Świętych, millions of Poles travel to their hometowns to visit cemeteries. Families clean graves and bring flowers such as chrysanthemums and light votive candles known as znicze, which illuminate the resting places of their relatives for days. The tradition, rooted in Catholic observance but embraced by nearly all Poles, dated back centuries, replacing the ancient pagan feast of Dziady, when the souls of ancestors were believed to return to earth. As dusk falls, cemeteries across Poland glow with millions of flickering lights, creating one of the country's most moving annual sights. Most shops remain closed and traffic slows as families gather to remember those who came before them.
In Serbia, preparations are underway for Saturday's commemoration in Novi Sad, marking 1 year since a railway station canopy collapse killed 16 people. Ahead of the gathering, President Aleksandar Vučić called for calm and mutual respect, urging Serbians to avoid unrest as thousands are expected to attend the event. Our correspondent Pavel Czaskovsky was on site and brings us this next report.
If I were to bet my money on whether tomorrow's protest will be violent or peaceful, I would rather say it's going to be on a peaceful side. And this is because I heard the state address of the country's president, Aleksandar Vučić, today, who, after months of disregard for the protest movement, apologized today and asked for national unity tomorrow.
Let tomorrow be a day that unites us, not a day that further tears us apart. The day when we will unite in the grief of families and show our respect and love for them. Not a day that any of us will use for our own political benefit. And after tomorrow, let's try one more time with dialogue in society. Those who want to protest can continue to do so, but with more respect for their countrymen who disagree with them, and with more respect for the laws and rules in society that we all have to follow.
I'm yet to enter Novi Sad, but it is reported that thousands have already gathered there to take part in tomorrow's protest, probably the biggest one since the movement started last year. From Novi Sad, Serbia, for TVP World, I'm Pavel Czaskovsky.
And now let's hear what some of the protesters in Serbia had to say.
The feelings are positive and I cannot explain why. We believe and I feel that the students have brought hope back to us. That means a lot after the hopelessness we have lived in for the last 15 to 20 years.
We have been talking and protesting here for 30 years and everything seems the same, but we still hope for change. We will not give up. Sometimes we get tired, but we keep going. My feelings are mixed. Over the past year, we have faced many disappointments and challenges, yet we never gave up. A year has passed, and we still have the energy and determination to fight for justice. We were just waiting for students to arrive.
Society has changed, and that is our greatest achievement. I think the students have awakened people, and this march they are holding is beautiful and important.
Flights at Berlin Brandenburg Airport were grounded for nearly 2 hours on Friday evening after unidentified drones entered its airspace. German authorities say the operations have since resumed, but an investigation is now underway.
All takeoffs and landings at Berlin Brandenburg were halted between 8:08 and 9:59 p.m. local time after drones were spotted near the runway. Several flights were diverted to other German airports before normal operations resumed. Airport officials said the threat has passed, but the incident adds to growing concerns over drone activity across Europe. In recent months, unidentified drones have been detected over airports and critical military sites in Germany, Denmark and Norway. Berlin, a key ally of Ukraine, suspects Russia's involvement, though Moscow denies any connection to the incidents.
The Pentagon has given U.S. President Donald Trump the green light to provide Ukraine with Tomahawk long-range missiles, assessing that it would not impact U.S. stocks. Now, that's according to a CNN report released on Friday, but the final decision lies with the White House.
The Joint Chiefs of Staff announced their assessment of the Tomahawks even before Trump's meeting with Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky 2 weeks ago. During the meeting, Trump suggested he would not sell these missiles to the Ukrainians because the US needs Tomahawk missiles for its own purposes and transferring them would be a major escalation. Trump suggested he would not sell the missiles the day after speaking with Russian leader Vladimir Putin. The Russian president told Trump that Tomahawks could strike cities such as Moscow and St. Petersburg, which would not significantly change the situation on the battlefield, but would damage the US-Russian relations. CNN sources reported that Trump has not yet made a final decision on these missiles. The administration will prepare plans to make them available to Ukraine if Trump gives the order.
Staying on President Trump, well, he said on Friday that Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban had sought an exemption for Hungary from sanctions imposed on Russian oil companies, but the request was denied.
The Hungarian Prime Minister said earlier on Friday that he was hoping for Hungary to be exempted from sanctions imposed on Russian oil giants Rosneft and Lukoil. The sanctions also impose restrictions on those companies' customers. Trump said this would not happen. Earlier, Orban said that during his upcoming visit to Washington, D.C., he would explain to Trump that Hungary, as a landlocked country, is dependent on pipeline systems. Hungary receives more than 80% of its oil from Russia via the Druzhba pipeline, and this proportion has increased in recent years. Though Trump initially leaned towards this explanation, U.S. officials have recently said that they expect Budapest, amongst others, to prepare a plan to move away from Russian raw materials.
Belarusian leader Aleksandar Lukashenko accused Poland of breaking off talks on the release of political prisoners and Polish citizens detained in Belarus. Among them is Andrzej Poczobut, journalist and winner of the Sakharov Freedom Prize of 2025, who's remained in prison since his second arrest in 2021.
Belarusian President Aleksandar Lukashenko maintains goodwill while blaming the Poles for failing to engage in dialogue.
Well, let's just say we can exchange Poczobut. If the Poles want to do it, we are ready to consider this option. Let's exchange Poczobut. If you want, we are ready to go along with that. But last night the KGB reported to me that Poles retreated from this negotiating position in solidarity with Lithuania.
The Polish Foreign Affairs Ministry emphasized that the release of Polish nationals imprisoned on false charges remains a top priority for Warsaw.
We remain committed to ensuring that Andrzej Poczobut regains his freedom as soon as possible. However, we do not comment on statements made by the Belarusian KGB or Aleksandar Lukashenko.
On Monday, Lithuania moved to close its border with Belarus indefinitely. The decision follows on from numerous incursions of smuggling balloons from Belarus into Lithuania, which resulted in the closure of the Vilnius airport.
We're saying to Belarus, no hybrid attacks will be tolerated in Lithuania. We will take the harshest measures to stop such attacks.
Following consultations with Lithuania, Warsaw decided to postpone the reopening of 2 border checkpoints until mid-November, though observers insist that allowing some border movement is imperative.
It's necessary to open in near future also the same points near Grodno, and also to restart trains for people. Another way we will have, and we now have new iron curtain.
Currently, only 2 rail crossings operate, handling freight only. Road crossings began closing in 2021 and again in 2023 after Poczobut's sentencing.
In Riyadh, the WTA Finals, the season-ending tournament in women's tennis, kicks off on Saturday. Poland's Iga Świątek will open her campaign at 4 p.m. CET time against Madison Keys of the United States. Now, Świątek, seeded second, will compete in the so-called Serena Williams group, facing Keys, Amanda Anisimova, and Kazakhstan Elena Rybakina. The world number 1, Arina Sabalenka, leads the Stephanie Graf group alongside Jasmine Paolini, Coco Gauff, and Jessica Pegula. The Saudi-hosted event offers a record amount of prize money, up to $5.2 million for an undefeated champion. Świątek will look to avenge her loss to Keys in this year's Australian Open semi-final and add another title after her 2023 WTA Finals triumph. 8 of the world's best will compete for the last major trophy of the season, with the competition concluding on November 8th. Poland's energy heavyweight Orlen has just soared past the nation's biggest bank to claim the top spot on the Warsaw Stock Exchange. After some troubled waters following a change in management, the company is back on track and attracting major attention.
Poland's energy giant Orlen is speeding past its rivals. It has just taken the crown as the most valuable company on the Warsaw Stock Exchange, surpassing even the country's biggest bank, PKO BP. Since the start of the year, its shares have skyrocketed by more than 128%, lifting the company's market value to 117 billion zloty, or roughly $31.8 billion. The growth comes after a series of major mergers and acquisitions that transformed Orlen into an energy powerhouse. In recent years, the company absorbed Energa, Lotos, and gas company PGN&G, significantly expanding its asset base and production capacity.
Yes, there has been a change in strategy. We announced a new strategy at the beginning of the year, and it was very well received by the capital market. But the market was also watching how we would implement it. And beyond just saying what we would do, we actually started doing it. That was the main driver of our growth.
Today, Orlen ranks as the 11th largest oil and gas company in Europe and 112th among all listed firms in the European Union. It surpassed Germany's Bayer in market value. Once considered the largest company in Germany, Bayer now trails behind the Polish champion, marking a symbolic moment for the CET region.
The key tasks for next year are the opening of our offshore wind farm, the first major offshore project, and the 2 CCGT units currently under construction in Grudziądz and Ostrołęka. These are main priorities for the coming year.
The massive wind farm in the Baltic Sea is set to provide 1.2 gigawatts of power, and according to the new strategy, the capacity of clean-burning natural gas-fired power plants within the Orlen Group is set to increase nearly threefold by 2030. With a growing international attention, analysts say Orlen's rise reflects not just corporate success, but also Poland's increasing influence in Europe's energy and financial markets.
Moldova's parliament elected a new prime minister on Friday following high-stakes elections in which President Maia Sandu's pro-European Party of Action and Solidarity won a majority over the pro-Russian Patriotic Bloc.
Aleksandar Vučić, a 61-year-old economist, was chosen to lead the new government. He spent around 20 years working abroad, including at the World Bank. Vučić has not previously held political office and is not a member of the ruling Party of Action and Solidarity. In his first address, he outlined his government's priorities as EU, peace, and growth. Vučić holds Moldovan, Romanian, and a U.S. citizenship.
And that's all for this edition of World News here on TVP World for now. Thanks for watching.